Bambu's blazing, breakdown in quality, or freak flare-up. All this and more, PrintFix Friday, episode 203. There's multiple Bambu fires. There's just things we gotta talk about. Let's get into it. Before we jump too deep into these fires that have happened with these P1Ss and an A1, any of you that own Bambu printers, please check. And if you notice any issues, let us know. And please start a warranty claim with Bambu. This is not the first time we've seen fires with Bambu printers, and we are not exactly certain if this is indicative of a larger incident or something that is more controlled. We're going to present the facts as we see it. Love to know your thoughts. So 3 days ago on the Bambu Lab subreddit, we see, warning, my P1S caught fire. Please check your toolhead. The user goes on to state that the machine was running like normal, and shortly after they started a print job, the toolhead PCB caught fire, setting off a smoke alarm that they had inside of their enclosure. That's actually a really great place to put a smoke alarm. Maybe we should do that. Do you guys want to see like a whole video about 3D printer fire safety and some things you can do to mitigate that? Love to know your thoughts on it. But see, as soon as a smoke detector goes off, that just lets you know that something is on fire. Now you have that fun ABS and electronic smoke that is going to permeate an apartment. And like the user says, please take a moment to inspect your toolhead PCB, especially around the power connector. They don't know yet if it was a one-off, but down in the comments, we had multiple other reports of seemingly identical problems. So if you do own a P1S, please make sure that you check that power connector. This feels like the high power connectors on these new RTX cards that have been shorting and melting. Good luck, Editor Rob, with your brand new 3090.
Nothing on fire yet.
Let's take a look and see what we got. We have a very small indication of a fire. And this is on the backside of the machine, a place where I seldomly look, and I would hedge a bet that the bulk of you seldomly look as well. We can see circled a small area where things have melted. But if you look closelier, you know, on the inside, you can see burned plastic, burned connectors, and just overall pain. And a lot of it. It appears that this connector here is the one that failed. And given how fast Bambu printers can move, it's not impossible that these connectors can wiggle loose. I know at least on our X1 Carbon here at the shop, basically all the connectors are glued in place with like this silicone glue that also provides some anti-vibration properties on it as well. But when we have things in the shop like this, which is actually leaving with me in about an hour or so to travel down to the Florida Keys to 3D scan a submarine on a mega yacht. I'm not making it up. Here's a photo, but this is a $60,000 3D scanner, brand new. To give you guys an idea, it's an Artec Ray. But because of that, we have to have good fire safety protocols in place. Most of it being, I'm here all the freaking time, and there are multiple fire extinguishers behind me that I can quickly grab in the event of a oh crap scenario. But if you're running a lot of 3D printers lights out, when you're not around, not home, not at your shop, whatever it might be, having some level of Wi-Fi or internet connected smoke alarm would actually be really valuable. Something that could instantly cut the power to the machine when the smoke alarm goes off, I think would be one of the best case solutions for having an IoT device in a business that I could ever think of. A lot of the machines here are fully air-gapped, but I would certainly look at creating a completely separate VLAN just for Wi-Fi connected smoke alarms that could detect a danger and shut off every printer on the shelf, because we don't know where it's coming from. We just know that it's occurring. It's a decent safety measure and a good fallback, just not a guarantee. But if we scroll down to the comments, we can see from another user that the exact same thing happened to them. Fire and everything, the same spot. So we have at least 2 people. They have just resolved with Bambu support, and they ended up needing a new toolhead board, toolhead cable, extruder board, and cable that connects the extruder to the toolhead board, and a new MC board. We've talked about this before, where Bambu Lab customer support has been hit or miss. For us personally, it has only been good once and been an absolute dumpster fire every other time. But it's been months, if not over a year, since the last time that I contacted Bambu Lab support, so let's just hope it's better than the last time that I used it, which we talked about. We'll card to it so you can take a look, where we had bona fide different support as soon as they realized that we were a content creator. And that's just not something that we like in this industry, especially when it's that blatantly obvious. But we have another person here as well, Memorable C, that said it just happened to them on Monday. Their diagnosis board was just the toolhead, but they're pretty certain they won't get parts until after the weekend. If we look, the damage is in the same basic area, but it does not appear to be the exact same component. This does leave me wondering if Bambu has adjusted their production and have somehow used an inferior part or inferior product on these boards that are now catching fire. As we saw with the X1 Carbon, when I had to replace some pieces on one of my machines, I had to replace more than just the one connector that was broken because Bambu had done a full feature update on it and the old boards are no longer supported. It is to be known that manufacturers will do this kind of thing, where they will make updates to make it easier to manufacture, or theoretically more affordable as well, but the general consensus is that this should not be at the expense of user safety. Now, to rewind the clock a little bit, this is not the first time that we've seen a fire hazard from Bambu. The A1 was the first time that we saw it, and in fact, the next fail you're gonna see is an A1 fire. Unrelated to the recall that Bambu had, that was a worldwide recall for the A1 for its cable strain relief, that Bambu, I think, after everyone kind of dogpiled on them, handled reasonably well, but I would have loved to see them get ahead of it a little bit earlier than they did. But given that the only other experience we have with manufacturers and recalls is the Cheetah +4, which similarly they handled okay once they actually took it seriously, this seems to be a bit of a trend in the printer manufacturer range. But see, the thing is, Cheetah, while we don't hate their printers, in fact, there's quite a few +4s in here, they don't have the distribution, the network, or even relatively close to the fan base that Bambu Lab has. I would argue there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of P1Ss out there, and if we don't know exactly what's causing this issue, we can't be certain that your P1S, yes, you the user, is safe from this issue. From what we can tell, it does appear to be on newer machines rather than older machines, but I would think if you own a P1S, obviously let whatever print that's running finish. Then I would make sure that you pull off the rear cover of the machine and check that input power connector on the boards. It's not that difficult to check, requires a couple of screws if it's similar to the X1 Carbon, which from my experience, they tend to be relatively similar, and you can pull off that rear cover and check to make sure that it's okay. Chances are it will be melted before it starts to catch a fire. Not that I know exactly what that looks like, but just this past weekend, my well pump pressure switch caught fire and I lost water for a little over 24 hours. But if you follow us on Twitter, X, I don't know, Yo Dog and such, I made one trip to the hardware store, and the only reason I had to go back a second time was to return the stuff that I bought that was extra. So my nickname this episode is Hardware Store King. My name is Grant. This is PrintFixFriday, where we help you get your printers back to printing with purpose. And part of it is where we look at issues with 3D printers that could be safety related and try to help you identify if your machine is having that issue as well. If it is, please let us know in those comments and get a warranty support in with Bambu immediately. I don't care how old your machine is, 3D printers, no matter their age, should not catch fire, period. And no manufacturer warranty expiration is going to be an issue when it comes to safety issues. And if it is, let us know and we'll see if we can go to bat for you on it. But from what we can see, this is more on newer machines. I just want people with older machines to check. If you can, please tweet photos at us or take a video and tag us on YouTube so that we can look at and see what each machine looks like. We want to look to identify if any updates have been made to the boards themselves, because then we can look at identifying if there is an update that was made, a potential part that is creating the failure mode. Whether that is a loose solder joint, a cold solder, there are so many different things. It could even be a crappy connector that can cause these issues. But unless we look at new machines versus old machines. If we can identify differences, then we can start really digging in and understanding why things like this occur, and we can look at holding the appropriate parties accountable. But having 3 people in the same thread with similar, if not identical issues, to me is enough to be raising that red flag like I'm that guy on Instagram. But certainly, no matter how old your P1S is, please check it. We don't want someone to say, well, my machine is older, it shouldn't have this issue, when in reality, no machine should have this issue. We just want to make sure that everyone's machines are going to be safe and try to work with Bambu to get this resolved as quickly as possible. So has this happened to you? Let me know down in those comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And if you do want to support the efforts that we do, where we talk about this stuff at nauseum, you can join our Discord at the $10 tier and higher. Links, of course, in that description. Moving on to another fire issue with a Bambu, this time a Bambu Lab A1, a machine that, as we've discussed, has had a fire issue before, but this one is in a completely different area. We can see with this A1 that it was purchased back in November of 2024, so a little bit under a year ago, with about 1,000 to 1,500 hours on it, so not super heavily used as far as that person is concerned. I actually think that's pretty heavy use for a end user, but hey, I'm so glad you're using your machine. That's what we want to see. And the A1, so I'm told, is a venerable bed slinger for the money. Their story is that they started to print like normal, the machine shut off, the display was black, everything stopped moving, and when they tried to power cycle the machine and reconnecting the cords, the only thing that showed any sign of life was the light on the power switch on the back of the machine when it was set to the on position. By the time that they were able to make a ticket with Bambu, their significant other walked out to find the machine on fire, where they quickly disconnected it and were able to just blow out the fire. I will say that there is a user fault in that, which is if the machine didn't turn back on, unplug it, don't leave it plugged in. It clearly turned off for a reason. We can definitely see that there was an additional electrical fire in this machine. As of my current knowledge of the Bambu A1, this is a relatively isolated incident, but it does appear that it has to do with the connector that goes into that main power board. Going through the machine would give us a little bit more evidence, but please, unless you really kind of understand and are comfortable with working on electronics, especially burned electronics, please don't take apart the machine. It is better to work with Bambu for a complete replacement machine rather than trusting yourself, if you're not comfortable and hopefully certified, to do the work. Because at that point, Bambu has absolved themselves of any issues if something else does come up later on, because you are the one that did the work and not them. And I have to agree with the top comment here saying this is the second post that they've seen today about fires on Bambu printers, and they hope that Bambu will investigate and make a public statement. A lot of us have just understood that 3D printers have an inherent risk to them, and a lot of us are relatively equipped to handle it, but I don't think that the average person that's buying a 3D printer looks at it as a fire hazard, and we shouldn't have to. I believe that this is all because of manufacturers trying to push price points lower and lower and lower. We don't see fire issues from considerably more expensive machines. Like, I'm talking like 3,000 and up machines. We don't see fire issues in them because they're often built to a better standard. And if you're wondering what that looks like, when we toured Construct 3D, take a look at what it takes to build one of their machines and the amount of effort, care, and time that Jacob and his family put into building the Construct 1 and soon to be the Construct 2 that come out of their facilities. If you want to learn more about the safety and how they do it, Jacob is actually our podcast co-host, and we dig deep into the safety in an episode, which we'll card to, which you guys can take a look at. And if you do want to hear myself and Jacob talk about fire safety and things like that again, let us know and we can make that a future podcast topic where we distinctly discuss it from the perspective of someone, Jacob, who has gone through tens of thousands of dollars worth of certifications and thousands of hours worth of testing to make sure that their machines are the safest machines functionally possible in the industry right now. So where do we stand on this? Personally, as a user, I'm gonna look at some sort of home assistant based fire alarms that can shut off smart plugs that control like the banks and the shelves of machines. That's probably the safest thing that we can do right now, and have a smoke detector kind of above each bank of printers, and when that smoke detector goes off, it shuts off that bank of machines. If we lose prints due to false positives, I'm okay with that. I'd much rather lose a couple of prints than lose the entire shop. We have a fire suppression system here via Wham Bam Clouds, but that requires a pretty serious fire to be existing already. But boy, howdy do they work. If you want to see how they work, let us know. I have a few still that we can test for you guys if you want to see how Florida Man would extinguish a fire, because they're kind of spicy. But at the end of the day, we want machines to be safe. And if you have ideas on how you can take a machine that could have some potential issues with fire and make it safe, let us know in those comments. I wish I could pin more than one, but the best advice that we can get, I will pin that comment so others that see this video will be able to kind of look at that and try to implement it as best as possible. We understand that fire safety is very much a steep curve, but to get somewhere on that curve doesn't always have to be difficult. Thankfully, in both of these scenarios, the users themselves were not harmed. No further damage was reported. As far as I'm concerned, all's well that ends well, but I'm hoping that Bambu will be responding to this, hopefully more publicly than normal, but minimally to the users themselves to get them taken care of as best as possible. Preferably, I'd like Bambu to take the machines back, do full testing on them, and then do a report so we can understand why this happened. And if it is something that is more of a fluke that happened to occur on so many machines in such a short amount of time, or if this is evidence of a more systemic problem and they need to do a recall based on manufacturer date. But what we won't recall is the names listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Thank you for all of those names that help make videos like this possible. If you want to join and support the efforts that we do here, you can do so for as little as $1 a month via the links down below, where you'll also get access to tons of behind-the-scenes content, raw versions of special PrintFix Friday episodes, and, you know, be able to see raw scans of, like, my office, because I had to recalibrate and recertify this machine recently, and I scanned my office. It took 15 minutes to get 26 million polygons down to 50 micron accuracy with an actual real LiDAR scanner. This thing is insane. And if you do want to join the super secret Discord, you can do so at the $10 tier and higher. That is all we have for you all today. Don't forget to leave a like and get subscribed. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. Please do check your machines, regardless of the manufacturer, but especially if you have a Bambu right now. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. I know. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh! And I missed the fan blade! That was so good! That was so good! Yeah. 2 times in one day, I have thrown keys perfectly to Amber. That's like a 10 out of 10. No notes. Anyways.